welcome in to another Humankind video here on the Matchmoose YouTube channel. Now, this video is going to be just slightly different than some of the other Humankind content that I've put out here, but I think it is going to address a few things that, A, may need to be adjusted or looked at by Amplitude, because I'm not sure if I found something that's broken or not, but when I show it to you, you might be like, that might need to be fixed. 2, I want to address some settings in the game that, when executed upon with the right culture combinations and map settings, can also result in what I think may be one of the most broken strategies in the game. It is completely OP. It allows you to win games at a ridiculous pace and gain fame at kind of a stupid rate. And so I'll talk about that. And then at the very end of the video, what I'd like to do is actually just show off a map that good friend of the channel, Icarus, created that he and I played on. And so we're going to be in one game to start with, and then we'll switch over into a second game so I can just show off this map. It is a true Earth map, Humankind style. And Icarus, I think, took an existing map that had been built by someone, modified it, made it all Icarus-like with wonders everywhere, and it is a very beautiful map. So stick around to the end of the video to check out that really cool map. I'll give kind of an overview. We'll kind of look through the different lands and things on the map, but it's really cool. It's a really, really interesting looking map. So we'll check out that at the very end. But to start with, let's jump into the game and let's take a look at a couple of things that I think may be broken in Humankind. We're in a game, it's an offline game that Icarus and I have been playing, not on the True Earth map, so this one is different. And there are two specific things that I want to address in this video. The first one is a strategy that I think is not necessarily broken, and I don't know if it needs to be addressed, because it's a specific set of conditions that needs to be met in order to execute this. However, it makes the Umayyads, I think that's how you pronounce that, the most OP culture in the game. And what I want to address specifically is the ability that research cultures have, that research affinities have, to research techs into the next era. If you focus science, and then you get to the medieval age, and you choose the Umayyads, you get access to a particular tech that will make a massive difference in the game. However, that is only true if certain map conditions are met. So, first let's take a look at the map, and then I'll take you through why the Umayyads become one of the most potent cultures in the game with those map conditions being met. Icarus and I decided on this game to try out spread resources, rather than clustered or rather than their normal state, the spread resource, which was released several months ago in one of the patches as an option. That way the resources were spread across the map evenly. The idea behind spread resources I really like, because what it allows for is, especially in a multiplayer game, is a more balanced map. Everyone has access to about the same amount of resources. There isn't this clustered look where one person might get stuck on a continent or on a half a continent that literally has 1, 2, or even no luxury resources, and then everyone else has like 5 luxury resources in a single territory, which is going to help things like religious spread, culture spread, like everything. That's so powerful to have those luxury resources in Humankind. And so the spread resource setting was meant to kind of address that. Let's spread resources out. Now, the problem with this is that you get access to all of the different resources. So if we zoom out to where we can still see resources, you'll see that on my starting continent, I've taken over the whole thing. If we zoom out all the way, we can see the whole map. I've got the whole continent. This was actually Plosif's continent over here. He didn't go anywhere, so I just started taking it over because why wouldn't I? And so this is what we have right now. So I've claimed up a pretty decent chunk of land. This is probably going to be as far as my empire expands. We're on turn 122 as we're looking at this particular game. We're in the early modern era. And so, like, we just moved up. It's like we just moved up a few turns ago to early modern. This is about the territory that I've got collected in almost any given game, right? So as we zoom out, you're like, oh, well, there's not a lot of resources that, and then all of a sudden you start, so here's a marble, here's a porcelain, here's a dye. Like, notice they're all different, right? There's a saffron, and you'll notice that's a manufactory already, right? You come down here, now you get access to incense, we got lead, we've got silver, we've got sage, We've got all kinds of different things. There's your salt. Come on over here. We've got even more. We've got pearls. We've got our silk. Again, we now have access to just about everything, and that's because of the spread resource component. Now, if you're playing on spread and you are choosing to trade actively to gain other access to resources, right? So I have 6 salt. I have 1 salt in my land. It was the salt that we found right here, right? I have 1 salt in my land. This one, right here. That's the only salt, I'm pretty sure, that's actually in my territory. But I'm trading to get up to 6 salt. What that does is allows me to make a manufactory on this salt. So I must have 1 other salt somewhere, because I have a manufactory of salt, I'm sure. With all of that. So there must be salt somewhere else that I've got. Yeah, over here. Is that a manufactory? Where's my manufactory? That's an artisan's quarter as well. Well, maybe we can put 1 on salt. Anyway, what this will allow you to do is get access to enough of the resources that you have to be able to put luxury manufactories on your resources, right? And luxury manufactories are incredibly potent. To demonstrate this, let's go look at the tech for luxury manufactories. The tech for luxury manufactories is humanism. This used to be called patronage. Humanism is the tech that gets you access to these lovely things called luxury manufactories. This gets you a plus 50 fame on constructible. For each luxury resource in the game, only 1 luxury manufactory can be built. But when you have spread resources on and you're trading, you're pretty much going to meet the criteria for building one of these when you reach this tech. Because in order to construct a luxury manufacturer, you actually have to have access to enough of the resource to activate the wondrous effect on the resource. So you have to have enough access to it to be able to put it on. So in this case, right, I think it says 4. It says we have to have 4, right? You have to have 4 of the resource. If you look at the very bottom of that text, you have to have access to 4 of a resource on this particular map, and I think it changes based on map size. You have to have access to 4 of the resource in order to build this luxury manufactory. Now remember, I'm only getting maybe 1 or 2 of each one because of the spread, but because I'm trading, I just have to have access to 4 of each resource. So any resource that I have access to 4 of in the world, I can now put a luxury manufactory on. That is going to get me 50 fame. It's going to get me 30 stability. And it's going to get me 3 money per adjacent market quarter. It replaces your artisan's quarter, so you're replacing your artisan's quarter with a luxury manufactory. But the luxury manufactory is enormous as far as the numbers that it produces. Now, you also then, once you get the luxury manufacturer, you're also activating your wondrous resource effect, right? To activate a wondrous effect on a resource, so we're looking at the salt here, right? I have activated the wondrous resource effect on salt. On all cities, salt has already provided me plus 30 food, plus 24 stability, because I have that access to 6 salt. That's what the numbers just are. Once you have built a luxury manufactory for a particular resource, you unlock the wondrous effect. I get 30% more food on all cities. That is not a small amount of food. That is huge. Getting the wondrous effect is very, very important. So now, not only if you get access to building luxury manufactories first, if you can get as many luxury manufactories in as possible before your opponents, you're gaining 50 fame, and that is a monstrous number of fame for putting in one of these. 50 fame per luxury manufacturer you put in. You're also activating the wondrous effect for the rest of the game on that thing. Now, normally, you're not going to get access to the luxury manufactories. You're not going to get access to the humanism tech until the early modern era. This is where the Umayyads come in. Let's take a quick look at what the Umayyads will do for you. So if you jump over here, I was the Umayyads. We just moved up maybe several turns ago from the Umayyads in the medieval era. So, pretty cool. They're the science affinity. The big thing here is, because they're the science affinity, you see that affinity bonus foresight at the very bottom, just above my head. It says +1 era available to research. Normally, if you're in the medieval era, you cannot research into the early modern era. That's why in a lot of my guides and my videos, I always talk about when you reach that tech cap, all of your research that you're generating goes away. You're just wasting it every turn because you can't actually research past that era line. When you're a science affinity, however, you can research past that arrow line. That's the key part of the Umayyads being so powerful here. Now, aside from that, they also have the Grand Mosque. The Grand Mosque is a fantastic building, +3 science per number of attached territories. If you're getting a lot of attached territories or plan to have a lot of attached territories, these Grand Mosques will build up pretty big over time. Plus, they also act as a faith building, and that is really handy if you're trying to maintain your religion. So you get this science-faith combo that's pretty rare, actually. And so the Grand Mosque is a pretty good building. Their unique unit is also pretty decent, but the real thing we want to talk about is that +1 era access. Again, you also get +5 science per alliance on all cities. So if you're playing a game, and you're going to be playing this type of game to execute on this strategy because you want to be trading for those resources to get access to as many as possible, if you're playing a game with lots of alliances, you're also going to up your science by 5% per alliance. That can become really big. So what happens then is you go into your tech tree, and let's demonstrate this. So when we were in the medieval era, remember, the medieval era, we chose the Umayyads. We started putting our Grand Mosques in, we started generating a whole bunch of science, and now, once we reach the end of this tree, we can start researching past it. Now here's a caveat to that. You don't have to research all the techs in order to go past this line into the next era of techs. You can beeline all the way through and have like most of the medieval texts unresearched and cross this line. You could just at any time, you could just go into this area. What does that get you access to? Well, particularly in the medieval era, when you jump from the medieval to the early modern, there are some big texts that will get you access to. You can come here and you do your normal maybe pattern. Feudalism, because feudalism is huge because of the plus food, into chivalry to get access to your hamlets, and then maybe you just progress straight through and you jump right in. You probably got to get guilds right, and then you jump to centralized power, because what does centralized power then reach? Humanism. You can get to humanism in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 techs. In 5 technologies, start with feudalism, jump to chivalry, grab guilds, grab centralized power, get to humanism. In 5 technologies, in the medieval era, if you're playing as the Umayyads, and the reason I picked the Umayyads specifically, they are the only science affinity culture in the medieval era. That's what makes this so unique. But you can get to humanism and access to luxury manufactories in 5 technologies when you are in the medieval era. That is eons of time before any of your competitors will be able to get there. Even if your science was suck to start the medieval, as you start getting your Grand Mosques in and you start getting over here to humanism, obviously the cost of this tech is quite high, so it's going to take you a while to get there. But if you commit to this strat and get access to these luxury manufactories before everyone else, and you have spread resources on, and you are trading with everybody to get access to those, you will end up putting in luxury manufactories in the middle of the medieval era instead of in the early modern, and your technology is just like, your stability increases, your fame goes through the roof. Icarus was pacing me for fame in this game. It was a close game. And then I discovered this trick. I quietly and secretly did this during a game. I was like, wow, I can get straight to humanism. I went straight there. I built every luxury manufacturer in the game. I think I have all but 2 luxury manufacturers because I didn't have access to 2 of the resources. That's crazy. So the amount of fame that I gained from that was absolutely insane. So now I've got, but moreover than that, I've got the wondrous effect for the rest of the game. I'm in the medieval era, even in the middle of the medieval era, and I have the access to the wondrous effect on almost every single luxury resource in the game. That's wild. Like, look, I have access to 2 coffee apparently only at this point. I think some trade routes have been broken since I got this, but I have the wondrous effect on coffee, plus 10 food on all cities. So not only do I have plus 30% food on all cities from my salt, I've got plus 10% food on top of that from my coffee. I have the wondrous manufactory on saffron. I'm getting another 25% food on all of my cities from my saffron. I don't have the wondrous effect on ebony because I only have 2 of the 3 resources needed. So each resource has their own requirements, right, in order to be able to get access to that. So I need access to 1 more ebony to be able to build that. So I don't have that one. Here's Sage, plus 20% food on all cities. Oh, that's nice. Now I'm basically over 100% food on all my cities for the rest of the game, let alone the fact that I gained approximately, I think when we did the calculation, I think it was like somewhere around 1,200 fame that I gained putting in these manufactories because I put in so many of them. It was 50 per, right? I think I got all the way up to like right around the 1,000. I got like 1,000 fame or something like that putting in these luxury manufactories. 1,000 fame in this game, that's a win condition in and of itself. If you could get 1,000 fame lead on somebody and then play the game decently well the rest of the way, you're gonna win every time because you got access to 1,000 extra fame that nobody else could touch, right? But like, look at all these, like, plus 25% industry on all cities, plus 15% industry on all cities, plus 20% money on all cities, plus 10% money on all cities. This has made my empire into an absolute monster, and I did that in the medieval era. There's so much of the game left that all of my yields are just insane. Look at this. We're in the early modern era at turn 122. I'm putting out 1,000 influence per turn. Maybe not so great. That's not something I focused on. I am making 4,389 money per turn, okay? And if you haven't noticed yet, if you have not noticed yet, here's the big number. 12.3 thousand science per turn in the early modern era. 12.3 thousand science per turn in the early modern era. And I had this number over 10k when I was in the medieval era because of the grand mosques and all of the wondrous effects taking place, and because I started focusing science to get through the tree as fast as I could. This is crazy. It requires a specific set of circumstances to happen, but it is a very potent combination that basically makes the game unwinnable for anyone except for you, which is a pretty nice strategy to execute on. So check out the strategy. Let me know what you think about it. I'm pretty sure this is how it works. Put it on spread, trade with everybody, make alliances to take advantage of the Umayyads 5% bonus, go straight to humanism, build all the luxury manufactories, win the game. Like, that is the Umayyad strat with this particular strategy, which is wild. Now, let me show you something that I think is actually broken in the game. And I don't quite understand all of the mechanics behind this, but it has to do with osmoses. So what we're going to do is I am going to press the next turn button, and hopefully this triggers correctly. So we're going to press the next turn button, and we're going to see what happens with my osmoses. Osmoses occur, right, when your culture, right, so your level of culture, your civic, your influence level is being overtaken by somebody else. You get these osmoses. So if your civics are different than somebody else's, their civic will be imposed on you. And you will have to choose whether to reject it and suffer a massive stability penalty, or accept it and just switch to whatever the other civic choice was in that particular branch of the tree. So I have a couple cities where Icarus's cultural influence is starting to take over. This one, and then this city here, the one down here, is actually affected by these territories here. I connected it all the way up through, and so these cities as well are being culturally affected by Icarus's territory. So I have two cities that are currently have this effect on them, that are getting osmoses. Osmoses? Now, if you have accepted every single civic's osmosis, if you have accepted every single one, then you start getting science bonuses instead of being forced into different civics. So if you match up in every way on the civics tree with your opponent that is getting cultural dominance over you, you start getting science bonuses rather than civics. These civics osmosis, it's called the science osmosis. I'm pretty sure that's the mechanic behind it, because the only time I ever see these is when I've matched up exactly. Now, when you're playing against the AI and they start taking you over this way, they make really poor decisions a lot of the times on their civics tree, and they're not the kind of decisions you want in your empire. But when you're playing a multiplayer game and you and your person you're playing with happen to have similar viewpoints on the game and how it should be played, I wanted all of the civics that Icarus had access to anyway, so I just kept pressing the accept button on every civic. Well, eventually you get to the point where those civics become science osmoses. And this is where I am not sure what the mechanic behind this is, but if I can show you the numbers, your eyes will boggle out of your mind. So I'm hoping that this will work. So let's press end turn, and we'll see what happens. We'll let the turn progress. And again, I'm hoping that the AI, because the AI has now taken over Icarus, like, I'm not hoping that they haven't changed a bunch of things or that something wild and crazy is not going to happen here, because it could. Agreements frozen. All right, so I see the osmosis events. So let's click on these. So here they are. I have 2 osmosis events you can see down here, right? Here's an osmosis event. Here's an osmosis event. Let's click on these, and I will demonstrate to you the absolute ludicrousness of these osmoses. So I'm making 12,000 science per turn. That's all by myself in the early modern. Let's click on this. We'll go over to this osmosis event. It's down here in Nemosos, just like I said it would be. And let's take a look at what this is going to be. Let's click on this. Oh! Exchanges between the people of this city and its neighbors lead to minor technology breakthrough. Oh, really? Minor technology breakthrough, huh? Enjoy this 5,725.3 instant boost to your science. What? 5,725.3 minor technology? This number is outrageous. I don't know what this number is based off of. I'm sure there's something out there and somebody could probably tell me in the comment section. I am relatively certain that this ridiculous number, we could get it to pop up right here. There it is, the 5,725. This number, I think, is based on a percentage of your own science, because I have noticed that this number has increased as my science has increased turn over turn. This number has also gone up. So when I started seeing these, I was getting about 3,000 science per turn out of an osmosis, which is just ludicrous to start with. That number alone is huge. The more my science has increased, the more this number has gone up. Now, it could be also a percentage of Icarus's science, but I don't think that's true, because I don't think Icarus is even making 5,000 science per turn in this game. So, I think it's a percentage of your own science. So, a strat could be, play a game, just accept don't do influence at all. Let your influence, like Dwayne, allow another culture to overpass you and start taking over your land. Get osmosis events in all of your cities, but just press the accept button constantly. Just always accept them, regardless of how bad it's going to be for your empire. And then when you get to the point where you're getting these science osmoses, you could be getting these in all of your cities. This is game breaking. You can't be getting 5,700 extra science on each city every turn. So we just press the OK button. Okay, 5,000 extra science. Let's go to our next osmosis event. Let's go to the next one. We just got 5,700. I wonder how much this one's going to be worth. Oh, 6,207. Again, I don't know why those numbers are different. I'm not sure if it's like it might be a percent of the science being generated from that, or a multiplier of like the science generated from that territory. I'm not sure. I don't know the mechanics behind it, but all I know is these numbers are ridiculous. In the click of 2 buttons, without doing anything at all, just because I happen to be culturally inferior to Icarus, and his culture is taking over my land from a civic standpoint, but I've accepted all of his things, solely on that, I am getting over, well, darn near close, right, to 12,000 science per turn. That is double what I am currently making. I'm making 12,000 science per turn myself. I'm then getting an additional 12,000 science per turn from these 2 cities that are getting osmosis events. And yes, this happens basically every turn. If we hit the next turn button again, these osmosis events pop up again, because he's still influencing my territories. Every once in a while, they'll have a turn where I won't get one, and I don't, again, the mechanics behind that are still slightly mysterious to me, but this I think needs to be fixed, because this as a strat, particularly in a multiplayer game when you know you're going to be enjoying the benefits of having a person who's picking really smart civics choices and just pressing that accept button, these science osmoses are enormous, especially if it is percentage based off of your science and you're going for science. Anyway, it's ludicrous. So the combination of these 2 things have made this game a complete laugh, right? It's been absolutely crazy, because this, combined with the fact that I picked the Umayyads and beeline for humanism and got all the bonuses from the luxury manufactories and the wondrous resource effects, I am just cruising through this game, right? For example, to demonstrate how we're cruising through, right? Here's our tech tree. We just got microbiology on turn 123 in the early modern. When I moved up, so here's the thing you have to keep in mind if you pick the Umayyads and you do this. When I moved up out of the medieval era, I had researched all of the texts in the era I was moving up to. I had researched everything in the early modern era when I moved to the early modern era. So in order to research anything in the next era, when I was actually in the early modern, you have to pick a science affinity culture, which is the Hosean. I think actually the Hosean might be the only one too. There might be one or two. I think there's only one again in the early modern. So you have to pick them because otherwise you're just burning all of your science again because you can't research past that line. You've actually already researched all the texts in your tree, which is crazy. So I am now researching, I have microbiology. I'm in the early modern era. I just move up to the early modern era. I've got microbiology already. Microbiology is an insanely powerful tech. Minus food on farmers' quarters, minus 20% population consumption, and plus stability per pop. It solves so many problems. I have access to this so early in the game. It's just, look, I can one-turn anything. I could, it's absolutely wild. The amount of science that we're producing. And with those osmosis happening every turn, absolutely crazy. So that strat, the Umayyads, plus these, I don't know what's happening with these osmoses. If someone can explain that to me, that'd be wonderful. At least what's behind it. It's been consistent. It's happened all game long. That is just a wild number of signs. Okay, now that I've explained those two things, I want to take just a couple minutes at the end here to talk quickly about this really cool map. I just want to show off some features of it, and then we'll call it a video. So thanks for tuning in. Let's jump over into another game, and I will show off a really cool True Earth map in Humankind that Icarus and I were able to play on. Well, so as it turns out, in the theme of finding things that might be broken about Humankind, I found another broken thing. When you try to load a game that you just won, if you haven't played a turn, when you don't hit continue game and you just save right after you win, it turns out it glitches. So this is the best way I could do to show off this map to you. Here is the map. As they go through, the narrator right is going through all of the win conditions. Here's the best view I can get you this map. I will work on trying to get you something else. Maybe I could borrow like an Icarus save file or something to be able to do this in the future. But here is some pictures, at least, of this really awesome True Earth map with wonders placed exactly where they're supposed to go with all of that stuff. So you can see, obviously, Sydney Harbor doesn't go here, but you can see Yellowstone in the background. We're kind of in the Rockies coming into over into kind of California there. This is obviously the southern tip of South America. So you can see that we've got the wonder there placed down at the end, the glacier. It's a beautiful wonder. Here's Florida and the Caribbean. You can kind of see the islands there as well. All of the stuff is placed correctly. You've got the rivers actually kind of in approximately right locations. Even Icarus even kind of played around with rivers to try to get rivers to look about what they would look like. Here's your shot of the U.S. primarily, right? You've got your Great Lakes. You can see kind of the shape of everything. The Appalachians. You've got the Rockies on the other side. This is how it is in every continent. Icarus has taken like careful kind of formation to take a map that was in existence, really kind of craft it and make it kind of, it's very special. It was a really, really fun map to play on. There were great resources absolutely everywhere. And the map really did, like, every major feature that you can think of was part of the map. It was such a fun map to play on. I will work on trying to get a different video up for you at some point featuring and highlighting this map. And I'll even ask Icarus if there's a way that I can get everyone access to it potentially. I'm not sure how we would do that, but I will see if there's a way to make that happen. Anyway, I'm sorry I couldn't show off more of that map. It was so cool. Hopefully a couple glimpses of it there gave you an idea. I was going to kind of walk through each part of it and be able to show you each of the features of the map. And so maybe I'll try to do that again in the future. You can see that I took home a big victory in this particular one, 21,800 points. Actually, the map was kind of loaded, right? It's loaded full of wonders. It's loaded full of resources. All of the resources Icarus has placed in like regionally appropriate places, right? So like coffee was in coffee growing regions of the world. Salt was in salt producing regions of the world. It's just, it's so special. It's such a cool map. So a tip of the cap and a hats off to Icarus for participating in the creation of that. Again, he took a base map and modified it. So there was other creators kind of in that process. But it was a really fun map to play. So again, I'm sorry for not being able to show you the whole thing, but that's, man, I can't believe that bug is still affecting games. Yeah, I gotta remember. So in order to remember, if you win a game and you want to be able to go back to it again in the future, once you win, play a whole turn. Hit the end turn button, then save. Because if you save it after you've won, even if you've done some things and then not hit the next turn button, it defaults back to that win screen that we just saw, that we just went through. And the problem with that is apparently it glitches. So I can demonstrate the bug to you. So if I hit next, we skip this button, it looks like I can press it. It does nothing. I'm clicking multiple times on it right here. It absolutely does not do anything. So basically just the only button you can press is this quit to main menu button. It doesn't, this continue game button does not do anything. It's so weird. What a strange bug. Anyway, so I'm sorry I couldn't show you more of the map. I was really looking forward to highlighting that, but that is how it goes currently. So, all right. Thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of a couple of those strats. Do you think the osmoses are broken when it comes to those science osmosis events? I think that those numbers are incredibly ridiculous. Let me know what you think of the Umayyads and the humanism research strat to get to those luxury manufactories. And again, I'll try to get you a more in-depth video at some point in the future on this channel on that really cool map that I was supposed to have shown you more of in this video. If you like the content, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to be subscribed to the channel so you see when I release my next video. Next week, we will be starting our next Let's Play series on Humankind here on the channel. I am going to be featuring my personal favorite strategy in all of Humankind, the Harbor Strat. And we're going to try to cheese it as hard as possible as well, so stay tuned for that. We'll start that next week. Make sure you're subscribed so you know when I post my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.